Boots Ortiz is not official, but Ortiz De La Hoya is. All right. So we did Vergil Ortiz is slapping Oscar De La Hoya, Golden Boy Promotions, with a lawsuit. This thing's getting ugly. You got Rick Mirigian cutting WWF style promos on Oscar, and Oscar, who cuts WWF promos every Thursday, doing the same back on him. Yeah, so to start with the legal facts of it all, Ortiz has and this is a credit to Meridian, has a clause in his contract that if De La Hoya doesn't have a concrete deal in place with a network, that his client is not subject to have to go down with the ship, so to speak. And Oscar's deal with DAZN expired December 31st, as it's been revealed, 2025, which I suspected. And that was part of why I gave that part of that video about, hey, you might want to see if you can get it done with Amazon. But to be fair to Oscar, Amazon seems to just have a distribution deal with PBC anyway. So I don't know if that's even a realistic option. Just because you would be open to getting a deal with Amazon doesn't mean there necessarily really is one there. So, and also Ortiz wants a $7 million guarantee when I believe De La Hoya's company is saying that it's a $3 million guarantee type of fight, and they're only eligible to have to pay $1 million guarantee and $2 million for world title fights. I believe the interim title, that's some interesting gray area where does an interim title count as that $2 million guarantee, or is it only full titles? But if it's to go by the letter of the law in boxing in its state now, and in the Hall of Fame, which considers interim titles a part of being a world champion, then yeah, that would check the box. You'd have to give him the $2 million guarantee. I'll reveal this. I've heard from people close to the fight that Shakur and Teofimo are getting $9 million guaranteed apiece for their fight. So they've accomplished more than Ennis and Ortiz, but that would say that $7 million is not out of the ballpark. So it's unfortunate that it's coming to this. Oscar is not really throwing Vergil under the bus. He wants to go to war with Vergil's manager and his lawyer. Dan Rafael pointed out Oscar's inaccurate in saying this is a new lawyer he just brought into the fold to go into this lawsuit, saying this is Canelo's lawyer that sued me. Oscar doesn't have a good track record in these lawsuits. He lost to Heyman. He lost to Canelo Alvarez. He may be on his way to going 0-3 in these lawsuits. And again, this is not a new lawyer for Vergil Ortiz. So yeah, my initial impressions are they may win because Oscar has no deal in place with DAZN. And apparently the lawsuit also revealed that he had an extension on the table through 2026 and 2027. In the Bible, it talks about if you are lukewarm, the Lord will spit you out, right? And you can't have 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Maybe I'll work with Heyman. Never mind. Forget the Prime thing. Here you go, Turkey. Let's do Garcia Barrios on DAZN. Well, then if you were going to go that route, you might as well have signed the extension. Thoughts, Raheem?
The $7 million guarantee request is why old school promoters will say, let the fight cook. Let it build. It's not time yet. Fans don't want to hear that. We definitely want the fight right now. But the truth is, we've already said in previous videos that neither one of these guys is a superstar. It's a star-building fight. One will be a bigger star at the end of it, and one might not. But neither one of them is bringing so much to the table that you can say it's a superstar or clear A side or a marquee fight that crosses over. It's just a fight that the boxing community really want. And because of these last few years, we're getting used to getting what we want when we want it. This fight is definitely worth having right now. But on the money side, as you like to say, could they eat what they kill on this one? Can they really demand those kind of guarantees at this stage with no world titles, nobody selling out stadiums yet, no real full-on superstar as a part of the fight? It's a fight where they both need each other. 50-50 split, winner take the extra 5, turn it into 55-45. Makes a lot of sense to me. I think asking for 60 for Ortiz is a death knell. It's a fucking poison pill. It makes the negotiations incredibly difficult and hard to justify. I think Oscar, with that hubris, I don't know if it's that or if that he's trying to reach the number that Ortiz wants without it coming out of his pocket and trying to figure out a way to negotiate that person, which, isn't a crime, but if you hinge the fight on it, if you lose the fight because of it, well then, 100% of nothing is still nothing. And so I don't know what is going on with Oscar and his relationship with his star fighters, but you're right. This is looking like something we've seen before, and airing that laundry out in the public and kind of condescending to your fighters, even choices where he showed respect to Ortiz directly, but then also is kind of condescending to Ortiz's choices, his representation, and how much he's being manipulated, and he's just being fooled by this entity. Well, that don't feel good either. You're saying I respect you, I want to do a great job for you, I've done a great job for you, but you're kind of stupid. These guys are taking advantage of you, and you're being manipulated, and I'm the one that's really got your best interest at heart. Well, that's difficult because obviously Ortiz's relationship with his manager is closer than his relationship with his promoter, and his manager is the one that really is the one that is most closely looking out for his best interests and putting these clauses in the contract so that he has some freedom and mobility if things go sideways, which they appear to have gone. And like we said in a previous conversation, if you start using your fighters to support your promotion company and that becomes blatant, like you need the fighter to do this so the company can stay afloat, fighters recognize that. Mm-hmm. They don't like being in that position. Now you're promoting them. They're not promoting you. I'm sorry. They're promoting you and you're not promoting them. You're getting the deal off of their back. You're asking for 60, but you don't have the leverage to get it. And you don't have no place to go get the money that he wants. Well, that's going to make him call his manager and be like, sort this out. And that's the dynamic that we have going on right now. Your manager and your promoter should be at each other, but behind closed doors. Dueling videos is a bad look for everybody. Mm-hmm. It's not great. I don't know if this fight is a fight for right now, if the demand on the money is what it is. If they can't eat what they kill, the Sean Zittel motto, then they're going to have to go to the cash cow to get the purse. And if that's the case, like you said, then Oscar should have bent the knee right out the gate so he could already be in the pocket and we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Well, it looks like he's using Ortiz as a leveraging chip. I could take him over here to PBC Prime. I can make an Errol Spence fight. I can make a Fundora fight or Turkey. I want a good and Oscar for the time being. Well, no, he's got Garcia Barrios coming up, but Raul Curiel just fought last night and won a main event. But beyond Garcia Barrios doesn't have a long-term commitment from DAZN. And yeah, okay, well then you better have got that done. If you weren't gonna get that 2-year extension done with Turkey, and I respect that. You want to work with another private American business. You want to work with Heyman. You're saying me and him have buried the hatchet. We're all good now. Well, you got to act, man. You got to have something ready for your fighter because your fighter's ready to eat. He's ready to fight. He's ready to get paid. And I'm sure Ortiz, if you had a good multi-million-dollar payday on the table, hey, we got Spence at Cowboys Stadium, April, May. It's a go. Okay, cool. Then you got, or actually, we're gonna get you Fundora. You got to get him something. Charlo, and he wasn't able to produce that. Instead, he's caught between worlds, using his fighter out in the open, pretty obvious to anyone in the business, as a leveraging chip. And Ortiz is saying, no, I'm not going for that. If Rick's telling me that we got 7 M's, whatever, 6.5 M's on the table from Turkey, then go ahead and make that happen. And you leveraging that into a longer term deal or a sweeter deal, whatever it is you're working on is not my problem. I need to get paid. I need to do what I got to do. And
a promoter without a TV deal is a husband without a house. Like, I can do bad on my own. I can go get why do I need you to take me around the networks and shop me as a part of your company if you don't have no place for me to fight? In this environment, I can go do that myself, sign a 1-fight deal potentially, and make the most money possible and split it with nobody or make my direct deal with the network myself even. Or go to a promoter who has not just a house, but a home and make all those fights that I want there. He doesn't, it's not a loyalty thing. These fighters ain't loyal. These promoters, nobody is loyal in this game. Okay. So try to leverage that type of relationship when it's clear what's going on is not only is it not going to work, it really is going to expose you as being in a very weak position. When you're in a weak position like this, behind closed doors, you need to shore up your relationship with your fighter and be like, yo, stick with me. I got this. Don't worry. Don't get nervous. I can make this happen. And then show and prove. If you don't have that relationship or you say that and then don't come through, once the cracks become public, yeah, Oscar had to say in that video, if you come for my fighter while he's still under contract, basically I'll sue you for trying to poach to other promoters because he know the game. The sharks are in the water. They may not do anything blatant to get themselves a lawsuit served, but believe me, the whispering, the message to the messengers are being whispered in Ortiz's ear. There are promoters who would love to absorb that type of fighter and give him what he's asking for and are in a position to do that. And like we said before, this is making it very difficult for promoters to keep their stables together if they don't have a relationship either with the network or with His Excellency that can provide the kind of money that fighters got very used to getting very quickly in this Riyadh season era.
Yeah, because again, the 7 million isn't based on market value. And I'm not sure really the 9 million. It probably isn't based on Teofimo Shakur's market value. It's just what Turkey's willing to pay. So they're for that. Hey, whatever, we'll take the money. Obviously. And now Oscar's in trouble. He is potentially looking down some real trouble. He's got some solid young talent. Josh Edwards is a legit heavyweight prospect. Caden Griffiths, I can't remember which one it is, Griffin or Griffiths. He's an exciting 19-year-old with a big left hook. Joel Iriarte. He's still got some young talent in that roster, but nothing that just looks like bona fide the next Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo kind of guy.
You don't got Abdullah Mason.
No Abdullah Mason, right? Absolutely. Well said. And Ryan Garcia looks like he's on his last fight with him. Maybe I believe Oscar may or may not, don't hold me to this fully, have a 2-fight option on him where he gets a cut potentially. So Ryan can leave, but he'd still have to get something out of it for at least 2 more fights. He may not even have that, but that's some things I've heard from people in the business. But I believe it's his last full-time fight with Ryan Garcia. That's part of why you saw him dissing him in his 12 Days of Christmas, which I did think was funny, but that's an indicator that the horse is leaving the barn. Like I might as well have a parting shot as he's on his way out of there. Ryan crying to losing to Rollies was what it was, right? And now Zurdo to me is the underdog against Benavidez in May. And even if Zurdo wins, he's never been a draw. He's never been a ticket seller. And again, I don't think he beats Benavidez, who's one of the best fighters in the world. So, and then Ortiz was probably his most important piece of them all, because up until now, he hadn't had a sour relationship like he had with Garcia. Ortiz seems to be a more dependable fighter than Garcia. And he, unlike Zurdo, even though he's not a true ticket seller yet, we all have believed he's on his way to being that. You can see through the style and everything that he would be ingratiated with some big wins and the right kind of marketing push, whatever promotion, that he would be a star as well. And even losing a Boots fight, if he's competitive and it's a great fight, could still go on to conceivably be a star. Vergil Ortiz, and now that they're on the outs. And Rick Mirigian, I can never have the affection for Rick Mirigian that I have Oscar De La Hoya, because Oscar was one of the fighters that made me fall in love with boxing. I always have mad love for El Niño de Oro, for the Golden Boy. But Mirigian one thing I've heard about him, I mean, Ortiz has chose up. He's chose Mirigian's side over Oscar's. And I've heard things about Mirigian. And again, just to show I'm just not riding on Mirigian, his most famous moment is and real quick back to Oscar, nobody put more guys over and shared the stage to create more stars in the sport in my lifetime than Oscar De La Hoya. That part of that is because he lost to some of those guys, and a guy like Floyd didn't lose, so not as many other guys were put over as he was, but Oscar is an all-time great and elevated several other fighters in stature, including Floyd, who couldn't go on to be Floyd without that fight. But Mirigian, a lot of us knew him. His most shining moment was Josh Taylor dressing him down before he beat Jose Ramirez. And that wasn't a good look for Rick, but Rick was ultimately getting dressed down, going to bat for his fighter. And speaking of Jose Ramirez, talking to people in the business, Rick is very savvy at getting even more juice out of the orange, out of whatever fruit you want to call it, for his fighter. He used to do things in Fresno, not only pack it for Ramirez, but he would do these ringside deals with VIP tables set up ringside. And that would bring in hundreds of thousands of dollars. The way he would cut in the local hotels, he would, again, the VIP tables ringside, and he would share it with Jose Ramirez as a business partner. A lot of dirty managers would have, and nobody's really fully squeaky clean in this business, but a lot of dirty managers would hustle that and pocket it for themselves and only give their fighters what the promoter gave them. Well, no, apparently he cut in Jose Ramirez on the action. And him trying to get his client $7 million as opposed to $3 million is him getting that's why Ortiz is like, this is my guy, and again, Oscar even has a mark on his record too with Sinisa Estrada. They're from the same barrio. They're both from East LA. Sinisa had a lot of potential. It's hard. It's women's boxing. It's a 105, 108 pounder. He did give her a great fight with Marlon Esparza, but Sinisa didn't walk, but ran from Golden Boy to Top Rank. So this is the latest in a series of bad looks for Oscar as a promoter, whether it's Vergil, whether it's Ryan, whether it's Canelo, whether it's Sinisa. It's not good.
Rick is doing what a manager is supposed to do. He didn't take it public. He responded publicly, which you can't necessarily fault him for. I mean, these conversations should definitely be behind closed doors in the heat of a negotiation for a major fight, biggest fight for his client. However, if your promoter's not getting it done and the manager is really looking out for the best interest of the fighter, then he's looking at the full landscape. He's not looking at what the promoter can do. He's looking at what boxing can do, what the environment that's currently available to a fighter can do, which is why he's used this clause to separate from the promoter, because boxing has more to offer than Oscar and Golden Boy has to offer. And so it's putting his client in the best position to optimize his earning potential. I'm not ready to count Oscar out just yet. He is a fighter. He's been through a lot, and he's had a lot of lessons that didn't end up being W's for him. He's taken some L's in there. But Ring Magazine, for instance, he was seeming to blow that deal with Turkey, or at least be in a position to hold on to the magazine and not sell it. There was a minute where, it looks like he's not going to give it up. And then he ultimately did. This fight with Ryan and Barrios, well, he did his best to find some other home for that and leverage that into a better position for Golden Boy. But in the 11th hour, when it just couldn't happen, he gave in. And now the fight's on, and it's a big fight, and we're ready to go to Vegas to see Ryan Garcia challenge for a world title. I think this 60-40 thing, he is in promoter mode in the way that he understands the game, which is you ask for everything, you negotiate, and you take it right down and play a game of chicken and see just how much you can get, and then in the end, you make the deal. I don't think Oscar's going to let the fight go away, but he is negotiating as if he's in a position of power, and he's not, because he has now it's been seen that his fighter's not sticking with him. That really is his leverage. So that leverage is out the window. I think you see something happen where Oscar recoups the relationship, or restores, I should say, the relationship, and maybe does make a deal, or he makes his DAZN contract renewed, or does something. He's not going to let Golden Boy go down. I don't think he's going to let Ortiz really ultimately get away. He's going to find a way into that deal and to find himself at a home somewhere. I think that Oscar right now was playing a game of poker, and now we've seen his cards. You know what I mean? And he's not dumb. He is. Sorry, man. You have to do a little editing. He's not dumb, and he's a little crazy on Thursday. But by Saturday morning, if there's a fight that needs to be done on Saturday night, Oscar comes to his senses and makes the deal that's necessary. I think that's what's going to happen here. It's going to be more and more difficult for promoters who don't have a solid home, a network deal that's got plenty of years on it, and a good relationship with His Excellency to keep their fighters. It's going to be very difficult because the landscape of what's possible is not only visible to everybody, but it is accessible to everybody. Turkey's not closing the door on you and saying, come back with your promoter. You're not in a position like, it's not the 80s and the 90s or even the early 2000s anymore where you have to have this promoter system in place. It's like Hollywood with the agent system. It's like a good actor that everybody knows it's a superstar should be able to negotiate their own contract for a movie, should be able to go to the studio and get their own deal without losing 10, 15, sometimes 20% to an agent and manager. Everybody knows this guy's a superstar, but the studio won't deal directly with an actor. The studio says, come back with your agent. The studio has relationships with the agents and with the managers that force the actors into these negotiations by proxy and can't negotiate for themselves. That's not what boxing is anymore. It used to be that. It's not that anymore. And so the manager is the new guy that's really the agent in the position to navigate and promote the fighter to whatever network or whomever has the potential to make the fight the fighter wants to make. That's the new game. And Oscar, I think, is maybe just a step behind that, trying to hold on to an obsolete system. And that is why it keeps slipping through his fingers.
Yeah, that's essentially what Terrence Canelo did with Turkey, and I think even Shakur with his deal. Eddie may still have a piece of him. I would, forgive me, audience, but I think Shakur maybe even went straight to the source for the Teofimo fight without Eddie. And yeah, I mean, you're right. It's an over era. I remember talking to Peter Nelson in the final days of HBO the last year or two, telling him, hey, there's this kid, Devin Haney, that I think you should get on your network at least as an opener or something. And he goes, yeah, Devin needs a promoter. He really needs a promoter to talk. And well, HBO's not around anymore. And Peter Nelson was gone a few years short thereafter. But to wrap it up, it sounds like you think that Boots Ortiz will be a go. I'll say this. I believe they still have a hold on the arena in March. That hold hasn't been let go of. So it sounds like you think it's actually going to happen. And it does sound like Ortiz wants it. He wants it for the right price at $7 million or so. He's down. Boots is down. So you think we got a fight?
I think we do have a fight. And yes, Ortiz wants it. I believe Boots wants it. However, if there is any leverage here, I believe Ortiz has had the stronger resume, the tougher fights. He's proven himself a bit more. And if the fight doesn't happen, it's going to look like Boots is the one who didn't want it or didn't want it bad enough. And then in the wake of the fight not happening, if it unfortunately does go that way, the opponent that Boots would have to select would have to be a damn tough fight to get respect for not doing the Ortiz fight. If he takes a walkover opponent, a nothing guy, or an easy win, or a fighter that we're not excited about, it's going to be a bad look on him. It's going to be a tarnish on him. And Ortiz is going to start to be the one that emerges as the more serious contender, the more potential star, and the guy with the better resume. And they're going to start separating that way. Whereas Boots might be flashier. He's got, Eddie and in his hometown and all that stuff, but it's all kind of sizzle, and Ortiz is bringing the steak.
Yeah, well, I got the perfect plan B for him. It's the Josh Kelly Bakram Murtazalia winner. I mean, that's if for whatever reason this fight falls apart, and there's a lot of reasons, then fight the winner of that fight for the IBF title. That's plan B, obviously.